many match winners do West Ham have? I'm going with 2. Jarrod Bowen, that's the obvious one. And the second one is Thomas Souček. I can't include Crescencio Somerville because he just hasn't won enough games for West Ham. I think he's a good player. I think he's a talented player. A match winner? Not yet. No, not that we know of. I think Mohamed Kudus was one. And we've lost one in him. Might have not had the best last season at West Ham, but he was a match winner. I'm not entirely sure Lucas Paqueta is one. I just think his output, I know he started the season scoring some goals, but I think his output is not good enough to really consider him to be a regular match winner. Get to the strikers. I guess you could claim that Callum Wilson was, but is he a match winner now? Is he going to be an effective match winner for West Ham for the rest of the season? No. Nicholas Füllkrug, you just can't count him as a match winner. I'm being quite strict, I guess, with the way I'm assessing it and my criteria. Not many is the answer to West Ham. Then you've got to look at the other clubs and look at the other clubs who West Ham might be battling around with this season. Now, I'll let you do that. You know, whether Wolves have got match winners, certainly like Strand Larsen there. One of the reasons that Villa were never going to stay down the bottom for any sort of length of time, they have match winners, regular match winners, and really plenty of them. Which brings me to what I want to talk about today, which is Ivan Toney, which is very much a match winner. Not only a match winner, a proven Premier League one. It's almost like you've got to have both, realistically, for the situation that West Ham are in. We're in massive trouble at the moment. I'm in little doubt about that. So what did we need to get ourselves out? Realistically, I thought we needed 3 things. When it was just really clear that Potter was going to carry on losing if we'd have left him in his position, West Ham needed 3 things. We needed to get a proven, and when I say proven, I don't mean dip back to the old school, don't go and get Sam Allardyce or anyone like that. We needed to get a proven manager who was competent, who was tactically proficient, who knew what he was doing, who was going to be able to lead, so on and so forth. I think we absolutely ticked that box in Nuno. I think we went and got a decent manager. But it was going to need 3 things as far as I was concerned. It was going to need that. He was going to need to be backed, which meant a January transfer budget, which sort of links in with the last one, which was amongst those players that we're going to need to sign. Whilst the manager looks round and looks for holes in his squad, we were going to need, say, a match winner. You know, possibly even more than one, but certainly one guaranteed match winner. These are so rare. They're so hard to find. And when I started looking round at the other players that West Ham have been linked with in, I don't know, the recent couple of weeks, because it's been clear that we needed a striker, and that was before Füllkrug got injured. West Ham needed a striker, and a striker that was going to score Premier League goals. When we were linked with Xerxes, I think Xerxes might be an okay fit. But he's not guaranteed. He's not guaranteed goals. Does he look like he could be a talented player? Yes. Does some of his attributes fit the profile of maybe what Nuno Espírito Santo might want? Yes, I think you could say, yeah. But a proven match winner? No way. No way. I don't even want to discuss Hendrick because it's just pointless. Absolutely pointless. What about Pellegrino, who we were linked with? A proven match winner? Not really. Certainly not at Premier League level. Would he improve the team? Would he be an improvement on what we've got up front? Probably, but I'm not talking about that. This is when you're down and you're in the relegation zone, which is what we are. It's those 3 things. A really good manager, a transfer budget, and match winners. And I just couldn't, I can't count him in. I can't consider him to be a match winner. That Emmanuel Dennis link, just forget it. I mean, apparently he might be going back to Watford anyway. Just forget it. He's not. It's not even worth. It's not even worth discussing. And when you start to look at it, you think, well, there aren't any, until we've got linked with Ivan Toney. And the moment we were linked with Ivan Toney, went, yes, that is it. That is it. Because he is a proven match winner. At every level of football he's ever played at. And certainly in the Premier League. Not only that, I do think he would really complement what Espírito Santo is going to do, which is, play his style, play the counter-attacking style. In many respects, there was a style of football that was on show at Brentford. They maybe last season, I think with Wissa and Mbeumo and the way they played was a little bit more expressive than they had done previously. But certainly, as when Thomas Frank got into the Premier League, it was counter-attacking stuff. It was tactical. It was strategic. It was, basically, sort of scraping wins where they could. And Toney was a big part of that. And I think he'd really do well under Nuno. I think he's great with his back to goal. I think he's also lively enough that he can get on the end when he's facing goal, run in and get on the end of crosses and cutbacks and things like that. I think he links play well. I think everybody would enjoy playing alongside him. I think he's intelligent. Is he super fast? No, but if you get enough good players around him, then I think he would be a good acquisition. I really do. He's going to be a hard player to get. But this is why you can't muck around. If what you want to do is stay in the Premier League, and look, if David Sullivan thinks it's bad now, if he took us down, it would be untenable. I don't know why. I muted my bloody computer. I don't know why it's honking at me. Not really a honk, more of a beep, isn't it? If he thinks it's bad now, if he took us down, it would be horrendous for him. And I mentioned this before. I think in terms of the way things have gone with the international break, I think sometimes time has fallen kindly for Brady and Sullivan. In terms of, maybe it just allows them a little bit of breathing space. He's going to be expensive. Ivan Toney will be incredibly expensive. He's on big money in Saudi. But as expensive as he might be, it's not going to cost half as much as West Ham getting relegated. Toney scored 30 goals last season. And I know some might say, oh, well, you know what, it's the Saudi Pro League. There's some good players in that league. In fact, he was second in the Saudi Golden Boot last season. And if you look at the players who contested it, it is a bit of a who's who of players who have been there, seen it, done it. And they're not all has-beens, by the way. There's some decent young players in that league. It will be costly, as I said, but what West Ham have got to do is got to go and pay the money. It's as simple as that, because it's one of those three things that we need to do. I have yet to see West Ham be linked with a player I think is more suitable than Ivan Toney. Nothing's guaranteed in football, right? People get injuries and stuff can happen. But I've not seen anybody yet who is as much of a sure thing as Toney. It will cost money, as I mentioned. And look, Toney's not going to do it as a favour, right? Money is important to this guy. Let's be fair, he was earning good wages at Watford and he still went and did the whole betting thing, right? So clearly he is money motivated. He then goes to Saudi. There's going to be a situation with a disproportionate wages. But we already have that at West Ham. We already have that. One of the top 5 earners is Guido Rodriguez. He doesn't play in the team. So that stuff is already happening anyway. And it may well be that just for West Ham to cover his wages could be £5 million for the rest of the season or something like that. Well, I think the loan for Calvin Phillips was £7 million. So we've shown that we will pay that level of money. But I think, as I say, this is a far more sure thing than Calvin Phillips. And I can't look at anyone else, particularly when we're being linked with maybe swap deals, swapping Luis Guilherme for, strikers in Brazil. Well, that's a punt, right? There's nothing to say that is. In fact, there's a lot of evidence to suggest those strikers won't work out. Toney's not like that. Toney comes in, he hits the ground running. The final thing that we've got in our favour is the World Cup squad. When England played Wales at Wembley, there was a point where Ollie Watkins ran in at the far post and he basically collided. His knee hit the post and he was down for a long time. And that was Thomas Tuchel's opportunity to have a look at somebody other than Harry Kane. But when you looked below that, there wasn't really anyone. Now, I'm sure the Aston Villa fans were thinking, oh, crikey, this ain't good. But for England, that was not good. Yes, Harry Kane was still sat there on the bench, but that was not what that game was about. That was looking at Harry Kane's replacement. And he looked good, and he looked like he could do the job, but nothing exposed the lack of depth, quite like the physios running on, everyone looking at Ollie Watkins thinking, oh, this is our second in charge striker, right? This is our second go-to striker. He's got a chance. Toney gets back in the Premier League. He's got a chance of making that squad a really, really good chance. How much is he motivated by playing for England? Well, you can only half believe the stories that you read. Apparently, that's what he wants. Apparently, that's what he wants to do. And his club are going to be accommodating with it. How true this is, I don't know. But if he's willing to come back, and it would only be a loan deal, and this would be a loan deal to keep West Ham up. He's 29 years of age. I just think sometimes you can be idealistic with West Ham, and certainly been guilty of that in the past, in the recent past, actually. Want to get a manager that plays better football and so on and so forth. That's idealistic, right? As it turns out now, I'm quite happy to scrap my way to safety as a West Ham fan. Do I want younger players? Well, yes. And in many respects, we got them. We've got them. Nuno is doing that. He's got a 20-year-old playing at left back. He's got two 21-year-olds in the midfield. And the guy he brings on pretty much as his first substitute, Freddie Potts, is 22 years of age. We've already got young players. That's happening. I've not seen the statistics, but we ain't the second oldest squad in the Premier League anymore, right? But sometimes you need to bring in a bit of experience. Sometimes you need to do something like that. And he's 29. He's not 39. And if you bring him in on loan, it is just a means to an end. It's to get you through to the end of the season. I think we should just pay the money. It's easy for me to say, it's not my money, right? But it's, I cannot stress it highly enough that West Ham cannot afford to scrimp here. We cannot afford to be cheap. We're in no position to do so. We've got this credit facility that's available to us, called the payday loan stuff, a credit card, whatever you want to call it. Where apparently we can borrow up to £165 million on a credit facility, which is based on future earnings. That's a risky thing. Would I encourage anyone to do that personally in their personal finances? No. But I think the drop-off is so big that West Ham can't afford to go out of the Premier League. And there's very, very few guarantees to keep you up there. All I would say is, if you've got a decent transfer budget, if you've got a competent manager, and you've got a player that can score your guaranteed goals, in fact, two, because we'd have Jarrod Bowen as well, you stand a really, really good chance of staying up. At the moment, we've got a couple of those bits done. And don't get me wrong, it's going to take more than that. Yes, Nuno is going to need to get his centre-back and do whatever else he needs to do. But I am talking about match winners here. And you could argue a centre-back, a good defence is a match winner, of course. But I'm talking about the guy that pops up with that goal, the guy that pops up with that assist when it matters. And he's the only one, the only striker I remotely thought, oh, okay, this is interesting. I'd be interested in this guy. The only one. It's Toney. Maybe we'll be linked with somebody else, but honestly, off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone. Can you? I'd be interested to know. Can you think of anyone realistically that West Ham can get who would guarantee Premier League goals? I can't. And if the only block towards getting him is money, if he would be willing to come to play the second part of the season in the Premier League to get in that World Cup squad, if his club are willing to loan him out, if it's a yes, and the only stumbling block is that he's going to be expensive, West Ham have got to pay the money.